Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hey guys, what's up?
And then just a minute, we'll be live on Instagram. There we go. Okay. So, welcome, Dr. Tiff. How you doing?
Hey, good. How have you been? It's been a week on the dot since we're so good about our weekly check-ins here.
We've been doing this every single week, and I love it. It's been fun. We've got I've been really good. We got a new topic today, and the topic is mindful eating. So it's techniques to tune in to your body's needs. And I have one of the things that I love to do in my coaching programs is make sure people get connected with their body. And what I found is that the majority of us, like I'd say more like 90% of us, are not in tune with their body. And even the people who say they're in tune with their body. And so what I want to do is kind of bring some awareness towards like what are the mindful things you can do surrounding eating, because most of the time when I mention some of the stuff I mentioned, people are shocked. Like that's what I'm supposed to be doing. We're just not taught this in
Yeah.
about physiology. So, any thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, yeah, I think we just live in a world of distraction. And so I think, especially if you're eating on your lunch break or like we are, Zooms back to back, or you got kiddos at dinner time and you're trying to cook them meal and you meal, like you're just always eating in flux. And so, again, you think about how does that impact your ability to really stay in tune with, am I full? Am I still hungry? Have I had any water while I'm drinking? I do it myself. Like I eat very fast because having grown up an athlete, I was constantly eating in the car, changing clothes, putting on a different uniform. And I think I just inevitably have built that habit, and I have to pace myself with other people. That helps me a lot because if I'm almost done and everybody else is not close, then that's a good gauge for me. So I pace myself, but I think, yeah, it's just awareness of it is just like anything, the first step, right? Just figuring out, am I eating really fast? Am I eating distracted? Am I doing 10 things while trying to eat? So it's a good topic for sure.
And it was cool that you said that because honestly, one of the first tips that I had was exactly what you said was eat without distractions. And it is so, I mean, listen, this is so interesting because these things are so simple and basic, but we're not doing them.
Yeah.
So that's the first one is turn the TV off, put your phone away, focus on your food. And you know, your brain really needs to register that you're eating for it to properly signal fullness. Because it's interesting. Let's say you're on a phone on a call and it's stressful and you're eating. You may not even realize, but literally what will happen is that stress will literally trigger that you're in fight or flight, and you will literally not finish your food, which will trigger you to not eat enough. So people don't realize the stuff they're doing while they're eating. So just the basic thing of truly eating without distraction. When was the last time you just sat and you were just with yourself and you ate and you were present with your food?
Yeah. Oh, I'm terrible at it. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it's like I know the strategies, but I don't do it. I'm eating and sending emails and,
Yep.
trying to do or watching a show, which I feel like watching a show, you can still kind of, right?
Yeah.
You're not engaging in that physically. I think something that helped my clients over the years is things like putting your fork down every now and then as you're eating to just pace yourself. Like, eat a few bites, put fork down, engage in conversation with the people you're eating with, assuming you're not eating alone. I think we don't engage the table as much as we could. We kind of get laser focused on the meal. I've even had clients eat with chopsticks just to slow them down, and you just have to eat more calculated, and it takes more time and smaller bites, and all of these things have been helpful as well.
Yeah, great point, because I like this one that you said. When I get people to start truly becoming fat burning machines and becoming healthy again, one of the biggest feedback I have is this takes so long to eat. And I'm like, yes, because when you go get a cheeseburger and fries, it's called convenience. But the problem is it's not convenient to your health, because then you spend, a lot of time in the hospital with like heart problems. And so you go, what's really convenient, right? So it takes longer to eat right. So this next tip, let's present this differently. This next tip is this is going to help you break down literally digest your food better, reduces bloating, and this will allow you to absorb nutrients better. So the next tip is chew your food thoroughly. Now it sounds funny. I feel like an English or not English, but like a third grade English.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe my teachers told me this, but because most people don't realize that digestion actually starts in your mouth. And so one of the things that happens is that chewing activates, of course, it breaks down your food, but if you chew less, your digestive tract has to do a lot more work. And there are literally enzymes in your saliva that actually start breaking down carbohydrates. And so it's interesting. I even see people that do smoothies, which seems pretty convenient. But one of my things I make sure I do is I will not replace any of my meals with smoothies, because when you miss the chewing part, you miss on that digestion part. So then I'll start seeing people having more bloating and, not absorbing nutrients as much. So that's my second tip.
That's a good one. Yeah. And I think too, when you look at, a lot of times we just don't think about what's happening all the way through that process and being able to activate things. And that does, I think, too, make you take smaller bites for sure. The one thing I will warn people against, because I've had people tell me this over the years, we talk a lot about meal spacing and timing and giving your body a chance to get into glycogen utilization and sort of position your metabolism for fat usage. And if you're grazing all day, you're stopping that process from having possibilities or at least being optimized. So getting people to spread meals out a bit more. And I think when you start eating slower, then people have told me it's taking me like an hour to eat my food. Well, like we're talking still a normal sitting of eating your meal when it's mealtime, and not just letting that meal like last 2 hours, because then you're just constantly refilling and spiking blood sugar. So I think I just want listeners to be cognizant of the meaning. We're saying, eat slow, finish your meal in a reasonable amount of time, chew slowly, enjoy. But like, we don't want to be sitting and like finishing this big meal over a 2-hour period.
I like that one. That's actually really good. It leads me into the next one. That's perfect. It's funny because these all sound so simple, but I work with high-powered entrepreneurs, really powerful women, and they're intelligent, but most of them are not doing any of this. Honor your hunger and fullness. So this is a tricky one, because I have found that if you have been eating a lot of sugar, let's change the word sugar to simple carbohydrates: bread, cereal, rice, pastas. Sugar literally tricks your brain into thinking that it's not full. So this is an interesting piece, because if you're eating a sandwich and it's got white bread and there's sugar and so it breaks down to sugar, or you have some desserts, that's why you can actually eat dessert, by the way. You can eat a full meal. Notice you can still eat desserts because sugar literally will allow you to eat more. So honoring your hunger and fullness is a very tricky thing. If your hormones are working properly and you're burning fat, you can trust your hunger mechanism. And so, it's important to actually tune in both ways, to stop and feel your body when you're hungry and to stop and feel your body when you're full. These are two things I find that most of us are not doing because we're so busy, and not just busy, but also stressed as well. So the funniness is, you ever been out with someone and someone will say, "Hey, you hungry?" And someone will go, "Nah, not just yet. I could eat, but not yet." That's when you're hungry, is what I found. Most people wait until they go, "Oh, I'm starving." The word starving. "Oh, I'm starving." You're going to trigger fat storage if you wait till you're starving. So one of the biggest tips I have is tune into the subtleties of hunger, not the loud voice of hunger.
Well, if you look at that, and we deal a lot with this with eating disorders in and out of treatment, whether it's inpatient or just working with somebody outpatient, is you don't want to ignore those cues, especially if you've trained your body to push through hunger and restrict and deny, and I'll just wait for dinner, I don't need a snack. it's the 1 or 2 on the scale of 10 when you need to be eating, because if you push it off, then you start chasing it. You got to stay ahead of it, because once you start chasing it, often it's an endless chase and you're never satisfied. And that's when the cravings, and to your point, the sugar and the things, they just never satisfy. It's like you eat not quite enough. Oh, now, and you start finding other things that, oh, that didn't do it. Maybe this will do it. So I agree with you to find those little subtle, and it's not a strength to ignore hunger. That this is not the goal of humanity. But I think we've learned that being hungry is a weakness. Like, I'm never hungry. This is it. I don't need to eat. I could go till 3 o'clock and not eat. Well, there's nothing magical about that. So
that's good. But I was just having some appreciation for you, Dr. Tiff, because you and I met through the BBG network and really hadn't had a lot of conversations with each other, and just jumped on to do live, and we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we actually started saying, hey, let's have some disagreements in here, which I'm sure we will, but we haven't had a lot of disagreements.
I keep waiting for that where I can be like, I have an opinion on that one.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, which I invite it, right? Because we have these different perspectives, but it's very cool, because I have nutritionists and dietitians who I grossly disagree with, and a lot of them have sent me patients, and I've worked with their patients, and they did not have great results. And so I just appreciate, like, we've literally, I think from experience, you start really seeing what works and doesn't work. So just having so much appreciation for your comments and everything. So yeah, I want to say that.
Thank you. Back at you, Doc. Back at you.
Totally. Okay, next tip. There's one big thing that will shut down your digestion, and it's called stress. And so breathe and be grateful when you're eating. This one, I think I could say it, and someone would go right over someone's head. Oh, that's a nice little thing. But understand, you have 2 modes of your nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is called rest and digest. So if you're eating in sympathetic mode, you will shut down your digestion. And so one of the ways to get in parasympathetic mode is to actually, before you eat, find 1 or 2 things, or 10, that you're grateful for. It will literally change your digestion.
That is interesting. And I would have to take that a step further, because I think so many people now have fear around eating. Is this the right food? Is this too much food? Do I have enough protein? And it's like, just the process of eating is stressful for people. And so again, I think that would just help. Like, I'm nourishing my body. I just had a hard training session, or I haven't eaten for 4 or 5 hours. Like, I need to fuel my body. I'm building muscle. I'm doing whatever it is. I need this to take care of my family, whatever the motivation is, instead of like, oh, I'm being bad because I'm having bread, or I didn't eat my, protein snack this morning. And I just think people have all this food noise, and then eating a meal becomes so unenjoyable.
Yeah.
And that creates some of the stress, not the root of, but there's a lot of it around that, I think.
Absolutely a great point. Yeah, absolutely. I totally, that's good to back that up for sure. I'm going to see what you think about this one. I think you'll probably agree with this one, but truly, eating whole, unprocessed foods. I mean, this one thing is what would change your life if you eat more whole foods and less unprocessed foods, because your body truly thrives on real foods. Vegetables, fruits, clean proteins. I'm going to be starting to do a lot more videos on this on my YouTube channel, but processed foods disrupt gut health and cause inflammation. And we are just now, in the last 5-10 years, figuring out, we haven't even figured it out. We're just discovering gut health. We're barely discovering gut health. And so much so that it's now becoming a little more mainstream conversation. But one of the biggest things you can do to help repair your gut is stop the unprocessed foods. So what are your thoughts about that, Doc?
Well, yeah, I think we don't think about certain things as toxic substances. I think that is a very big category that gets a little bit pushed under the rug. But I mean, there are things that literally kill our cells and our gut bacteria, right? And processed foods, specifically processed protein, but I think all processed foods. But like, I think people eat a lot of lunch meat. People eat a lot of hot dogs in the summer. People are eating beef jerky all the time. People are eating all these pre-made protein shakes. And I think that they don't realize that this is literally killing cells. And then you look at artificial sweeteners, you look at alcohol, you look at caffeine, you look at over-the-counter meds, prescription meds, so many things that we just don't even think about putting in our body in mass quantity is killing us at the cellular level. And I think that if you give yourself some space from that, you know, even if you enjoy to have a glass of wine on a Saturday night, but if you're doing it 3-4 days a week, like you're never giving your body a chance to recover and rebuild and restore, because cells are always being created, dying and created, dying and created. So we can't stop that necessarily from happening, but we don't have to add fuel to the fire. And I think if you look at the course of your day, how much artificial sweetener, caffeine, potentially alcohol, processed foods, all of that is all going in, taking an Advil, taking in a leave. Like you're putting so many of those things in your body in a day that it's a lot of dying and not a lot of rebuilding.
Well said. I agree with every single thing you said there. That was powerful for sure. That's powerful. I love it. Yeah, you're right on with that. We'll say it another time. So this next tip, I think, is going to be one of those ones where people are like, come on, really? But it's pretty powerful. And it's to taste the flavor of your food. And I'm guilty of this one. It's like, when was the last time you actually tasted your food? And to really taste your food, I don't know if you guys ever done this. I'm into a big spiritual community, and there's been times where you're in a meditation and they have this cacao chocolate and they bring it by and put it in your mouth. And your only job is to identify all the flavors in the cacao. And it's almost this like, you almost go into this transcendent space of meditation. You're like, just on the flavors. So think about it like this. You've been given the gift of having senses. You get the gift of smelling, the gift of tasting, the gift of touching. That's not something we do outside of these physical bodies. So I think we tend to forget that tasting food is a freaking gift. And this is one of the things that will help you to slow down and really prevent overeating and really improves digestion.
Well, yeah, I think you have to look at the reason that people overconsume highly processed, highly calorie dense foods, because they taste very strong in flavor, whether that's sweetness or saltiness or whatever that flavor profile is. And so I think then when you do eat something that isn't that way, then you have trouble even tasting it very much. It's not as palatable. And so just retraining how you taste. I go eat dinner at my parents sometimes. Well, my mom is Southern cook to the core and uses a ton of salt and a ton of seasonings. And she's been struggling with taste buds lately. She had some kind of sinus infection. And now she's like, doesn't think she's tasting things the same. So now every time I'm over there, she's like, Tiff, can you come taste this? And I'm like, Mom, like that is so salty or sweet or whatever she's using. And I still think, she just tastes, not because her taste buds are off, but I think she just inevitably over seasons because that's what she's used to having with the way that she's always cooked. Or when you eat out, things are way saltier. Things have way more bold flavors than you really need with the oils and the butters and the sauces. So I think that just kind of also retraining what is normal. For flavor. But I'm with you. Like, we don't just sit and identify like a good, sommelier where they're like, oh, I can smell all the flavors in the wine. It's like, I don't know that I could identify like all the seasonings in my whatever dish it is. So that would be a fun challenge, I think, too.
Yeah. And it really doesn't matter if you even can. It's more of like just stopping to actually do it, right? It's one of the reasons that we end up adding more seasonings is because you're not actually tasting what's already there. When I have by day 20 with my patients, they will tell me, Dr. Goleman, do you know how good a strawberry tastes? And I'm like, yes, because when you've been giving yourself so much sugar, you don't notice the sugar inside a strawberry. But after you take sugar out, you start going, oh my God, this thing is so sweet. Why would I ever have sugar? Right. So that's a big one. I want to see what you think about this one. So some of these that I came up with, these are not from some textbook I read. This is from working with patients, these things I'm saying. But I want to talk about hydration before meals or outside of your meals versus during. Because I have some doctor friends of mine who said, oh, you should drink with your meals. And I found that not to be the case. I found that better results if someone would hydrate, wake up in the morning, hydrate outside of their meal, but limit it when they're actually eating their food. Because what I found is that too much liquid, like people are just pumping water with their food, it dilutes stomach acid, but also it gives the perception of being full. And so I actually have patients that will actually not eat enough. So that's one of the tips that I have is eat out. Like, doesn't mean don't drink water. Just be hydrated outside of your eating. So when you eat, you're just taking just sips. You're not trying to pump water in your system while you're eating. So it's just a thought. I want to see what you think about that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think as long as you maybe then finish it after, because I find that a lot of my clients struggle to get enough water. And I usually recommend about half their body weight in ounces as just a baseline outside of what they're losing in sweat, et cetera. But that's a lot for some people, especially when you're older and your bladder doesn't do what it used to do and you're going to the bathroom all day. But I think if you aren't drinking during, the mealtime's a good time to get a glass of water in. So I think just make sure that you still pour yourself a glass and finish it after the meal, even if you kind of have to spread it out. But I just don't want people to, maybe misread that to be, I don't need the water. But I agree with you. Like, it can make you full and then you don't want to finish your main meal. So I think there's definitely some truth to that.
Yeah. And the tip is hydrate before your meal, not during. So it's not hydrate, is make sure you hydrate before you eat. And if you haven't, then yes, of course you need to have it after. So it's probably a whole nother conversation about hydration that we could have.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I find too, with the fullness piece and the hydration made me think of just fiber intake. And I think the other feedback I often get is like, I'm eating way more than I was before. And number one, they might be if they've come to me in a massive calorie deficit and we're trying to rebuild some metabolic capacity. But I also think when you start eating more whole foods, when you start focusing on less processed foods, when you're hydrating better, you're inevitably going to have more volume. And the fiber is going to help with fullness. So you might feel at first like you're eating too much, or you might actually have some temporary bloating. I just don't want people to think, gosh, I'm doing what they said, the whole foods and the hydrating and all the thing, and now I feel worse. It's just your body and your metabolism kind of getting used to more of the fiber and again, just trying to work things through the system.
Well, yeah, exactly. And honestly, what I find is a huge gut bacteria rebuild. Like when you pull sugars out and eat whole foods, I don't always find that people feel better immediately. People feel better, but I will tell you that if you have a dysbiosis, the two bacterial systems, and you take away sugar, one of those bacterial systems is going to revolt and fight. And I got to say, that does not feel good. So I have people that have bloating. They're eating so clean and they're bloated. They go, what's wrong? I'm like, your gut bacteria are literally battling each other. That's what's wrong. Yeah. And so, yeah, I've been through that myself. So anyway, so this was awesome. I know we're right at time. I like this topic a lot, and I have a few more. Yeah, at some point we can go, but there's another. I was even thinking about a topic at some point. I might put it in our list, Doc. I would love to do this with you. And we might do a series of these. But what does it mean? We'll call it what does it mean when your body's craving? And for example, like let's say you're craving chocolate. What does that mean? You might need magnesium. If you're creating salty snacks, your adrenals might need minerals, right? So I would love to do a little series like that with you. I think it'll be very helpful for people. So anyway.
I think so. Yeah. Like, how do I know what I need when I'm craving something, or do I just want a cookie?
Yeah,
because I want a cookie.
Yeah, and does your body, like when you need a cookie, does your body need sugar because you didn't eat enough food that day and it's starving? Because your brain will seek sugar, right? This is stuff that the mainstream, you're not going to hear from your medical doctor. You won't hear it from your most doctors that are in a mainstream medical. So anyway, that could be good. So
That'd be
anyway,
good.
thanks for being on. Anything else you want to say, Doc?
No, just have a great rest of your week. I hope you guys are getting sunshine in the Colorado.
We are. We're
Very
getting a lot of sunshine. How about you over there?
Yeah, it's cold in Nashville, weirdly, like really windy and cold, but the sun's out today. So I'm feeling, always makes me feel better when there's sun.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I know we
Yeah.
have so much sun here. It's huge. We need that. So okay. See you, love.
All right. See you next week.
All right. Sounds good, Doc. I'll see you soon.
Okay.